How are you doing? With me today, I've got this book, Popular Music Genres by Stuart Borthwick and Ron Moy. And I thought we could have a look at it and learn a little bit about rap. But before we do that, I'd like to say, I really hope you're doing well. Whether you're having a study session, if you're trying to get to sleep, if you're just waking up, if you're just having a chill, I really do hope you are currently nice and relaxed or getting that way. If you do enjoy this video, remember to like and subscribe. It really does help me out. I would really massively appreciate that. Without further ado, let's have a look at rap. See what we can learn. So this book basically breaks down different genres of popular music, from reggae, we've got rap, heavy metal, indie, rock, jazz, R&B. Just make sure in the frame here. And we have a look at the history of it, an overview, and then also some of the individual historic roots, and then the social and political context. So I'm not going to read you the whole of the chapter. I feel like that would be wrong to the authors of the book. I feel like you should read it yourself, but I thought we could have a bit of an overview of it together. I feel like if I showed you the whole book or a whole chapter, that would be cheating the authors, and I really think you should buy the book yourself if you're interested. But think of this as like a quick look, and really we're here to learn a bit about rap together. So, an overview of the genre. The history of rap is somewhat clearer than the history of many of the other genres discussed in this book. The aim of this section is therefore to present a simple chronological description of the key moments and texts in the development of rap music from its inception to the present day. I should say I got this book in like 2018, so to be 6 years out of date at least. Okay, here we go. So, rap's story begins in the early 1970s. There were these block parties. I know a little bit about this. So, block parties with mobile sound systems, and people such as DJ Kool Herc began to employ two record decks and mix records together. So I know that these were called break beats, and he would basically take two funk records, and say he would take one funk record and just replay the instrumental section, and he noticed people like dancing to that more. Anyways, sorry. Of relevance is the fact that Campbell was a Jamaican immigrant, well schooled in the tradition of the Jamaican sound system, reggae, DJ and selector. So, there we go. He developed the use of two turntables and an audio mixer, not to merely mix seamlessly between two different records, but also to cut between two copies of the same record. So this meant they could take a few seconds of a specific record and build minutes of rhythm, playing and replaying 8 or 16 bar drum breaks found on specific soul and funk records. So these formed the break beats and became a central component of rap music and dominate genres such as jungle today. Okay. The most sampled artist in the history of rap is actually James Brown, a really famous funk artist. So Give It Up or Turn It Loose, really quite famous. Okay. So let's skip down a little bit further. Alongside the development development of turntablism, we see the concurrent development of rap and lyrical accompaniment to the breakbeat. At the street parties in the 1970s, an MC, master of ceremonies, or the DJ himself provided rhythmically spoken, syncopated spoken vocals that matched the turntable's vinyl manipulation. So syncopated basically is something that is off the beat. So for those who don't know, so if I had a beat like this, something syncopated would be off the beat and it wouldn't quite match the beat that it made, and it would just go off the beat like so. So they sang, or they rather spoke in syncopated rhythms as the master of ceremonies. So while Herc simply talked over his records, Coca-Cola Rock developed a way of reciting poetry and rhyming catchphrases in a particularly syncopated yet rhythmic style. It is here that we see rap music developing as a mixture of looped breakbeats and a modern combination, and a modern take on the black vernacular or oral tradition. And then of course we had the first global hit from the rap scene, which is the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, which I've actually done an ASMR cover of. Just as a quick break, there's a lot of tea behind the release of this, and between Big Bank Hank and Casanova Fly, there's some real beef around the release of this record and Big Bank Hank's verse. Okay. So, rap music became synonymous with things like turntablism, graffiti, and breakdancing, which became like the four pillars of hip-hop culture. And they were avidly consumed by black and Hispanic denizens of New York. Okay, so, So the arrival of digital technologies in music production meant that in the early 1980s, the drum machine and the sampler began to accompany and in many cases replace the role of the DJ and band in the production of recorded rap music. So it was without sampling technology. The Sugar Hill Band employed a bass player to replicate Good Times bass line. So it's not sampled, it's replicated. Okay. So there we go, and the sampler did not need to be paid. There we go. It also allowed people like Run DMC to adapt a really minimalistic sound where, like, so for example, their first single, It's Like That, had a B-side called Sucker MCs, and it had nothing more than the MC and drum machine, which was really different to kind of the really kind of expansive, thick textures heard in a lot of rap records. There we go. So, along with the development of new percussive tools, the 1980s saw a dramatic shift in the central lyrical component of rap music. So, rapping in the 1980s shifted towards social and political commentary, and it was first signaled by the success of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five's hit The Message. There we go. So I guess this is where we have people like Public Enemy, and you'd have black music become very political, for example with NWA as well. There we go, look at that. So in the 1990s, this notion of rap as the radical voice of America's black community was disrupted, however, by the arrival of gangster rap, which featured the violent and frequently misogynistic fantasies of its flamboyant lyricists. Okay. There we go. Oh, and that's when we have NWA come in. So we have a change then from the production site being mainly in New York to LA to Los Angeles. So we've got Cop Killer, which is a rock track with a rap vocal. There we go. So East versus West became quite a big rivalry, and it led to deaths. We had Tupac from Death Row Records and the Notorious B.I.G. were both shot as a result of the so-called hip-hop feud, and at the time of writing, the murders remain unsolved amid allegations of police corruption. So, by the end of the 1990s though, sales had declined amid the shock of the two killings and under the joint assault of major record corporations, moral spokespeople and a record-buying public keen to listen to something new. And this led them to white Detroit rapper Eminem. So his verbal assaults are lyrically complex and exquisitely delivered and offensive in the extreme. So he's taken the shocking core of gangster rap and melded it with a delivery that is quintessentially rap, yet is as distinctive as any other singer in the world. So while it's suggested that rap music is a black cultural expression and prioritizes black voices from the margins of an urban America, goes on to suggest the rap's stories continue to articulate that shifting terms of black marginality in contemporary American culture. So Eminem's music articulates the experience of someone from the white American underclass, and that questions the essentialism. There we go. Okay. So this emphasizes, is this truly a global and inclusive culture in 21st century? Let's have a look at some of the historical roots now of rap. So we've got first off the African diasporic tradition. So Rose suggests that it's propelled by this, and these traditions consist of two broad forms, the oral tradition and African folk music, which both forms interact with American musical traditions, and this is due to the history of slavery and the subsequent settle of Africans in the Americas. There we go. So we've got drumming and the talking drum being talked about here. So rap often comments on and challenges inequalities in societies in which both producers and consumers are situated. However, rap is not an entirely progressive force, for it often reinforces social divisions such as gender divisions and frequently offers offensive and stereotypical representations of homosexuality, femininity, and gender relations. Let's have a look at how rap developed maybe from the blues. So the blues was a form of music that allowed blacks in the rural southern states of America to articulate the experiences of endemic racism, industrialization, and urbanism. And one particular importance during this period is when blues was electrified using electric bass, guitars, lead guitars, and amps. So the rawness and aggression of electric blues was a major influence on the subsequent development of both rock and roll and rap. What about, let's hear about jazz. So Toop suggests that bebop jazz formed an essential antecedent for rap. So often band leaders employed MCs, remember masters of ceremonies, remember them from before, to introduce individual compositions and link band and audience. They became known for their giant of talking and rhyming couplets. There we go. Here we also have people start to scat, jive talk, and street slang, which became like a natural accompaniment to this rhyming DJ patter. So we have this Dr. Hepcat couplet. If you want to hip to the tip and bob to the top, you get some mad threads that just won't stop. So radio DJs such as Daddy O Daily and Dr. Hepcat greatly influenced rapping, so that sounds really similar. If you want to hip to the top and bob to the top, you get some mad threads that just won't stop. Could definitely be some like old East Coast rap. Definitely as well, we have to look at the influence of reggae. We must look at the influence of reggae. So the idea of a sound system really comes from Jamaica. The production and the distribution found in reggae replicated itself in rap. So at the time, Jamaican record producers were producing remixed bass and rhythm tracks with few vocals called dubplates. So these were essentially reggae tracks that were stripped back in the recordings, and they used to put on effects like echo or delay, extra reverb, and they were mainly instrumental. They were accompanied by distinctive syncopated and rhythmic toasting, not rapping, and this predates New York rap. And some suggest that the arrival of Kool Herc from Jamaica and his subsequent immersion in New York street music brought that idea of toasting from Jamaica over to hip-hop and rap. So toasting and dub was almost like a precursor brought over by Kool Herc. Have I mentioned the amplification equipment? There's lots of amps built in Kingston. And then what about soul? So, drawn from a huge range of musical influences. Rap is just drawn from a massive range. Soul. So DJs provide a seamless mix of rhythm, and it's well known like the influence of soul vocals. So they draw influence from gospel and church spirituals. Soul relied on the oratory power of the vocalist to get its lyrical message across. So again, 2P points to soul rap and gospel storytellers as the predecessors of rap, with soul stirrers and Laura Lee employing a vocal style that is half spoken and half sung. Okay, there we go. Now about the social and political context. What have we got here? So we talk about the interaction between historical, musical, and political antecedents outlined above. And we have to think about the specificities of New York life in the 1970s. So you had this thing called the Cross Bronx Expressway that was built, and it turned the Bronx from a diverse but safe community into a rough place to live, with a high crime rate, low employment, lots of abandoned buildings. It really kind of destroyed the Bronx, this Cross Bronx Expressway, and it led to a hub of Black and Hispanic communities because of racism and things like that. And so that's why we have to be really mindful of the political and the socio-economic factors that were kind of there at the right point to develop rap. Okay, so we can also see that de-industrialization, globalization, and the rise of the new right. So in many respects, the shift from soul to rap mirrors the shift from the full employment and rising wages of post-war America to the globalized, de-industrialized, low-pay, post-Fordist economy that began to emerge from the 1970s onwards. So we got to think, we had this post-war booming economy that was really starting to fail. So we had globalization, so Reaganism, things like that, free market economics. So Fordist production started to fall, and this led to jobs and production being outsourced. Alright, so let's have a look here. Let's just read this final paragraph. Hip-hop culture rose out of and was directly determined by the experience of African American New Yorkers living amid these economic and political changes. A general philosophical shift towards individualism was contested by hip-hop's articulation of new forms of community and new forms of occupying the urban space bequeathed to African Americans. George Lipsitz, the Zulu Nation Community Organization, George Lipsitz describes this process well with his comments on Africa Bambaataa and a Zulu Nation Community Organization. So they found a way to declare themselves through music despite urban renewal, crime and police surveillance, and neglect from the culture industry, the school system, and city government. Okay, there we go. And I tell you what, I think... no, let's have a look. I'm going to skip this part. Have we got some different rap styles to look through? Let's look through these rap styles and then I think we'll stop there. So, let's look at some of these. So, we have old school rap, first and foremost, which has a sung rhythmic style, sparse vocals, and sparse instrumentation, less rhymes within sentences, and more emphasis on end rhymes. Okay. The rhythm of the rapping is particularly regular, and the overall effect is more musical than modern styles. So, we could have modern raps that are faster and more complex. So we have very simple raps. Party rap. Prominent and foregrounded and regular fast rhythms are used, and there is little of the complex layering found in other styles. Unlike other styles, there is less of a reliance on dissonance and more of a reliance on melody and harmony. Sung flow is employed, more so than any other rap subgenre. So it features our traditional verse, chorus, verse, meta structures, refer to parties, and are light-hearted or humorous. So this could be like Rapper's Delight or Hip Hop Hooray. Interesting. What about Mac/Pimp rap? Within Mac rap, lyrical concerns focus upon sexual boast, prowess, and desire. Musically, there is a similarity with R&B. It formally delineated songs, a slow tempo, prominent keyboard melodies, jazz harmonies, and little of the disruption of rhythm and harmonic dissonance found in other styles. Often recorded using a band and little intricate layering. Okay. Well, look at that. Next up, we have jazz or bohemian rap, which uses an eclectic range of samples and laid in a playfully postmodern manner. It's seen as being more cerebral than party or Mac rap. Matching the playfulness and the complexity of the sampling is a rapping style employing song and effusive flows. Raps are often based on political consciousness, Afrocentricity, and a general positivism, in sharp contrast to ghetto-centricism of other styles. However, more abstract and complicated lyrics are also used. Crims suggests that this style of rap is close to the beat poetry, and it is clear that this style draws from American art forms of Afrocentric forms of African American speech. So examples of this could be work by De La Soul, A Tribe Called Quest, and Jungle Brothers. Okay. Then we have reality rap, and this is rap that attempts to represent ghetto life. So we have divisions like gangster rap and knowledge rap as well. We got some examples down here. So we could have things like Run DMC, so Bone Thugs and Harmony, Nas Taken in the Blood, and the Wu-Tang Clan. We then have to look at how things like we have the visual aesthetic of graffiti, film and video, and things like Spike Lee are related to it. And then let's have a look at developments in rap and how it's become global, because it became global. And you have to think how clothes were. So we have things like Tommy Hilfiger, Timbaland, Ralph Lauren became popular in hip hop. So it is now a major seller in a range of different countries and across all continents. Okay, in Europe, rap has become inflected with both European accents and sensibilities. For example, music in Frankfurt am Main was first popularized by American Forces Network Radio and then adapted by North Africans, Spanish, Germans, Southeast Asians, and Southern European ethnic minorities in the suburb of Sachsenhausen. So these groups reworked rap music into a form that they could use to reflect upon locally relevant issues. So this pattern of local adaptation is found all over Europe. You got people rapping in Spanish, and incorporate Afro-Cuban Santeria dancing with the Latin-flavored rap. We also have in Sweden rap artists drawn from ethnic minorities, rap in English, the lingua franca of young people from mixed ethnic backgrounds, and counterpose themselves against the right-wing skinhead cult still prominent in Swedish youth culture. In France, le rap is phenomenally popular, with French rap receiving indirect support from the French state due to quota restrictions on non-French singing on French radio. However, this popularity has not been at the expense of French rap's radical politics, with rap being at the forefront of youthful opposition to the rise of the far-right Front National. There we go. So French rap is also combined with French house music and African musical forms, especially those from Francophone North and West Africa. Okay. There we go. In Britain. So US rap's been popular since old school rap days of the early 1980s, but a diverse range of acts have come from the UK. So we also have Midland rapper Mark Morrison, whose R&B comeback single Return of the Mac reached number 1 on the singles charts in 1996. We then also have things like The Pop Will Eat Itself and Roots Maneuver, all those kinds of people. I mean, and then if you think now, the development of, drill and grime and how that's become so massive in UK rap. Think about artists like Dave and Stormzy, even people like H recently, how big they've gotten. Okay. In Africa, then we have rap hybridizing with local music to form a bewildering array of Afro-rap styles. So with raps in English as well as local languages of Twi, Ga and Hwasahis, this musical form is particularly controversial due to its explicit sexuality, as is about Ghanaian music. So in South Africa, Kwaito combines rap rhythms and house beats pitched down to rap's sub 100 beats per minute tempo, with vocals in English, Afrikaans and Zulu. So all over Africa, we have different types of rap being used. And then in Oceania, we also have it being reworked, and rap is used to signify presence within Australia and New Zealand. So rap music has been adapted by Australian rap musicians, and also the group Coolism and Boomsticks uses undeniably Antipodean accent. This notion of glocalism is complicated by the Australian academic, who shows us how homegrown Australian music is dominated by whites, and how definitions of Australian music discriminate against music produced by non-white and indigenous ethnic groups. In many ways, Australian rap challenges dominant versions of Australian national identity and attempts to replace these visions with a more genuine form of Australian multiculturalism that incorporates the use of traditional Australian instruments, traditional Arabic instruments, and a variety of different languages, including Greek, Italian, Lebanese, and Vietnamese. Equally, New Zealand uses Maori music language to express local concerns and ethnic discrimination. How interesting to hear about how rap is used across the world. Well, I do hope you enjoyed that and learned something. I apologize for not reading the whole thing, but I didn't want to, because you should go read this book yourself. It's really interesting. and I'll see if I can leave a link in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and for giving me your time. I truly hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, morning, evening, night, study session, whatever it is you might be doing right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.